1, 2, 3, 4.
Max Chess. Max Chess. Max Chess.
Thank you for joining me. Haven't seen you in a while, man. How you been?
I've been really good. I mean, yeah, I've been good. Like, I think I've been busy, especially 2024. But overall, like the band, the Hold Steady turned 20 last year, so there was a lot of celebration to be done. It's funny that people really react to round numbers, like you can be like, hey, we're 19, and everyone's like, who cares? But 20, it's a thing. And so coming off of that, we put a book out last year, and we had a lot of shows, more shows than normal. And this is a little bit of a more of a normal year, but overall been good. I'm feeling a lot of gratitude at being like 52 years old and still be able to like do all this music stuff and go on tour. And I just spent a month in Europe doing that, and going to Australia next month, and Toronto obviously coming up. So yeah, feeling really good about it all.
You should. That's amazing to me. Like, most bands don't make it that long, career-wise or sticking together. So
I think I'm like super aware of it. Like I think because I'm such a rock and roll fan, I'm like, every time we put out a record, like last year we put out our 9th album, and I'm like, almost all my favorite bands didn't have a 9th album,
Right.
Yeah. And you sort of, you pat yourself on the back, but I guess it also makes you nervous. Like, it's like, wow, weird. How did we, how did we do this? How did we get here? And but I mean, it's exciting too. And I think, again, it's sort of like being in touch with sort of the gratitude part of it.
Yeah, like for me with my NBA career, that was one thing I was proud of, was the longevity, being able to last in the league till I was 36. Granted, I wasn't playing a lot my last couple years. I was kind of on the end of the bench, but I was still in the league. And you got guys coming to take your spot every year. And I think when I retired, I was like the 12th oldest player in the league.
Wow.
So I was proud of that.
And there's a physical thing there that, I mean, there is actually in rock and roll a little bit too, but I remember when we went to that game and we played at the game in San Antonio, I remember you saying something to the effect of like, I'm trying to get a few more years out of these knees.
Yeah.
And I would think, I mean, as I get older as a sports fan, I'm way more in tune to like, it's, like you watch, like, I like hockey, and it's like at the end of the year, your team goes out of the playoffs and then they all go into surgery. Like, it's like, like there's this huge injury report, and you're like, oh my God, that guy did seem slow during the playoffs. And now they're repairing his knee or something like that,
Yeah, I mean, at that point in the season, everybody's banged up, unless you're 19. Like, if you're over 25, everyone has bumps and bruises. Nobody's 100%, and you're just managing all the maladies in your body, basically. It's funny you bring up sports. That's what I wanted to ask you about. So, growing up in Minnesota, college in Boston, then you moved to New York City. Like, who's your teams?
So my teams are almost all Minnesota. Twins are my number one. I love baseball. Also, they've won 2 World Series in my lifetime, so they get a special place in my heart. They've brought me more joy than some of the other teams. I'm a Vikings fan. NFL is, I like it, but I like baseball better. And then the other 2 are more unique because I've always loved hockey, and as a Boston College guy, I got college hockey there, which they just lost the national championship, but it was a great year. But when the North Stars left Minnesota, I got really angry at the NHL, and I sort of was like, didn't have a team, didn't engage. And then I moved to New York. I moved to New York 20 in 2000, but sometime in the mid 2000s, someone started inviting me to Rangers games, and that's become my hockey team. And it's a good one. I feel like it's a good one it's sometimes I feel like it's cheating to pick, like, to kind of like switch midstream, but the North Stars went away, and the Wild started after I left. So and then the Timberwolves, Our absolutely my NBA team. It has not been a great run for us, except this year has been wildly exciting. And for the first time in my life, because NBA has always lagged behind because I didn't really grow up with it. And then the Timberwolves haven't had a ton of great seasons that have captured my. This is the first year I bought the NBA like league pass and watched almost a great majority of the games, and they're really exciting and it's really fun. And I'm going to watch tonight. Tonight they're up 2-0 on the Suns, and it feels like a new era of Anthony Edwards is here, and it's potential superstar, and if he isn't already, and it's very exciting. It seems like it's the team.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see if Anthony Edwards has a moment and takes that big step forward in big games in the playoffs, even though he's so young. And the thing I love best about him is you never know what he's going to do, who he's going to dunk on. That block shot against Indiana a few weeks ago to win the game when he hit his, not just the top of his head, but his temple on the rim.
Yeah.
Unbelievable how athletic that guy is. So you're lucky that that's your team and that's who you get to watch.
And the thing is the one thing I really like basketball wise is defense. I feel like defense is the most fun to watch, and their defense has been great. Gobert has been great this year, and their defense has just been really strong. I think they're the number one rated defensive team, and that to me is as a spectator, really exciting. Blocks,
Yeah, so I had a question for you, actually. So in your latest album, The Price of Progress, since we're talking about NBA and basketball, your song Sixers, which, is kind of not a weird, but potentially, it sounds like it's going to end in tragedy or breakup eventually based on the lifestyles of the characters of the song. And for anyone who hasn't heard it, it's about two people that fall in love and they're going to get married they had set a wedding date by the end of the song, but the woman is a big Sixers fan, always watching Sixers highlights alone in her apartment. What made you, where did that song come from? What inspired you? Why the Sixers?
So, well, it was kind of a double entendre. So I had this idea of a woman watching basketball highlights by herself, and then hearing someone in the apartment above her go upstairs and introduce herself to the guy up above. And actually, one of the influences of that song was written during the pandemic, and my girlfriend partner Angie is a nurse. I had to move out of the house because she was working with COVID patients, and we didn't have a lot of walls, doors, etc. So I moved in with her sister and her sister's family, and I was just writing songs. And actually the Adam Schlesinger from Fountains of Wayne passed away kind of early in the pandemic, and I started listening to a lot of his music, and he just has particularly one song called Someone to Love about two people that kind of miss, that seem like you think they're gonna be perfect for each other, and I was kind of thinking of that song and kind of started creating a story in a little bit of a tribute to Adam and Fountains of Wayne. So I started thinking about this story, and the thing, she gets a six-pack, and I was thinking a little bit of Dazed and Confused, the movie. There's the kid comes in and he says, I'll have a sixer, he's 15, but he
right.
Suddenly starts calling it a sixer. And then I thought, well, then there's the Sixers. So it was kind of a double entendre of basketball and a six-pack. And but basketball highlights are kind of all that late night coming home, whether it's baseball, they don't do baseball tonight, but that sort of ESPN Sports Center of where you're kind of zoning out and watching the big plays of the day. I wanted to kind of capture that.
Nice. I like it. Good song. Awesome
Thank
album.
you.
You mentioned your ninth. So you guys are coming to Toronto next week, playing 3 shows, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Friday shows sold out, but there's still some tickets available for Thursday and Saturday for anybody who's listening and wants to check out the Hold Steady and their 3-show run in Toronto. being able to come back and spend, it's not like you're on tour and you're kind of in and out. You're going to be there for a few days, and you haven't been to Toronto in a few years, I believe.
I think, but maybe 22. Yeah.
So are there like places or things you like to do when you come to Toronto, spots, any fond memories?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is that in 2016, well, back in 2014, the Horseshoe Tavern asked us to play 4 shows to celebrate their anniversary, and we did. And to be honest, we thought it was too many. And they said, no, come do it. It'll be fine. And so we did it. And what happened was people came from all over, and we were able to play different sets each night. And we found that a lot of people were going to more than one show. We used that as an idea to change the whole way we toured. And since 2016, we've just gone, we don't tour traditionally. We don't get in a bus and go out for 30 days. We go to a city we like and we play 3 or 4 shows. And so the roots of this part of our business are based in Toronto. And so we've always loved it there. This is the first time we haven't played the Horseshoe in a while. But, I do think going record shopping is although I wish I could remember all the stores. I don't remember the stores. There's some of this is like all visual too. Like, there's the coffee shop around the corner from the Horseshoe. Is that Dark Matter, something like that? I don't know.
Dark Horse Espresso.
Yes. And then there's the record store there that you go down.
Sonic Boom.
Yeah, big one. Yeah. And but yeah, I mean, I just think the vibe of the city, Kensington Market. I'm a big like walking guy. Like I get a lot of inspiration for songs and just sort of clearing the fog off my head from walking. So I'm a huge into like just, walking out the door and seeing and just pointing in one direction. And, Toronto is obviously an amazing city. There's this is a weird thing, but when I was a kid, I was really into the band, the Bay City Rollers. That was the first band I loved. And they have their record dedication. It's one of those gatefolds. And when you fold it out, it's this photo of them in front of what looks like 100,000 fans. And I realized one day when I was walking around, because I've been looking at that photo for my whole life, that it's at Nathan Peters Square. I think that's what it's called. And that was where they received their fans. There was some sort of promotion, but it was epic. And that was like one thing I was walking around, I'm like, oh shit, I know where I am. And I went back and I looked. I never knew it was in Toronto, but sure enough, I'd seen that photo so many times I realized what it was. So I always kind of have a little special place in my heart for there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I have the same attitude when I played in the NBA. I love to just go. We'd have walkthrough or shoot around in the morning, maybe some film. I'd go back, get change out of my practice gear, and just go walk and find somewhere to eat lunch. Go in some record shops, maybe some bookshops. If I see some cool stores. And then over the years, you start to branch out. So like, I'd be like, all right, we usually stay downtown in a big hotel. I want to check out some other neighborhoods. So I'll take like a $10 Uber to a new neighborhood and walk all around there, explore all that and try and like, you're right. It's all visual. Like if you ask names and stuff, same thing. I wouldn't be able to remember, but I'm like, if you go here and there's this really cool coffee shop or whatever. So I love hearing that. But anyways,
I have a question for you, because do you find, and maybe this is, is that something you miss? Because I find that sort of weird solitude where I'm alone in a city, but I'm not alone because there's people all around, but I'm like wandering around and I'm like stop at a cafe and get a coffee and read for a little bit. I find that almost to be addicting. Like I crave that feeling, and I wonder if that's something you miss about traveling in the NBA?
You know, it's something I didn't realize I missed. I retired in 2016. I stayed in San Antonio, went back to New Hampshire during the pandemic where I'm from. So for so I moved to Toronto last summer. I don't know if everybody followed all this, but so for like the first 7 years I was retired from playing, I was living in a place where you can't really just walk around. Like San Antonio is spread out, especially where we live, you can't really walk anywhere. Also, for 6 months of the year, it's so hot and humid. I would melt if I even was outside for more than 5 minutes. I was lucky though. I got to do broadcasting for the Spurs, so I'd get to go on some of the road trips and get a dose of it. But it wasn't until this summer when I moved back to Toronto, which is such a great walking city, I realized how much I missed what you just said. Like, oh, everything's done. I don't have anything to do for the next 2 hours. I have 3 kids, which keep me busy. They're not out of school. I got 2 hours to kill. I'm just going to go walk around Kensington Market and get a coffee and a sandwich, sit on a patio, go check out some stores. And it's like, it takes me right back to my playing days. And you just kind of reconnect to that feeling. And it feels great.
I realized when we were in the pandemic and we were sitting home, it was like, of course I missed the shows, but like the one thing I missed was like when you fly in the night before and the band's all showing up because we all live different places now. And like, you end up like having a beer at the Hilton Garden Inn and you're like, I didn't know this is what I liked. Right. But this is what I like, like, of course the show's great, but I really missed those sort of like interstitial moments.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, thanks for coming on. And, when you come up to Toronto in a few days, I'm living there. I'd love to get you to my neighborhood. It's not too far from like downtown. Some really cool spots. We can walk around, get a coffee, a sandwich, whatever. And appreciate you coming on. And we'll see you.
Thanks for having me. So excited to be in Toronto, and that sounds excellent. So I look forward to it.
Awesome. Take care.
Take care. See you.
Max